Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to have Kathleen with us from Spark Park program, one of our inaugural year award winners and in the environment category. So Kathleen, thank you so much for being here and for putting together this presentation. I will, with that, hand it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you. We are very excited to be one of the first to get one of your grants. And we actually, our request was for some of our art projects. And so we did get $22,000 from y'all. And so public art, we think, is a real important part of our project. And so I selected one of the projects that we funded. And so if you want to start the PowerPoint.
There we go.
So we work with 17 school districts in the Houston, Harris County area. And we have 158-ish Spark Parks all across Houston, Harris County. We have several in Fort Bend County, and we have one in Waller. And so anyway, we're all over the city, county. And Hearn Elementary is in Alief ISD, and we marked it here. It's very close to the West Park Tollway. And so anyway, this is the project that I'll be talking about. And so go ahead. So first of all, after our process is that the principal turns in a letter to us requesting a Spark Park. And for the past 6 years, we have really been focused on park desert areas. And so we got a large grant from the Kinder Foundation and Houston Endowment, the Powell Foundation and the Brown Foundation over the past 6 years to really focus on projects that were identified as park deserts areas. And so a park desert means that there's not another Spark Park, city park, or county park within a 10-minute walk of the school. And so Hearn is one of our park desert areas. And so we first got a landscape architect involved, and you can see her drawings of what we added to the project and to the playground in back of the school. The major thing being the concrete trail, which is a 1/4 mile. I think it's real important, especially at elementary schools, to have some kind of walking trail. Some call them loop trails or whatever, but I just think that for students to bring their families to the park after school and on the weekends, it's a great way for the whole family to exercise, whether it's you bring your bicycle or bring the stroller or bring roller skates or whatever. This is something that a family can do together, all age groups, is walk a trail. So one of our main things was to put in this 6 foot wide concrete trail. The other things that we did is we added some bits. I'm going to turn around and get. We added some benches. I always like to add benches with backs for the teachers who watch the students play, so that they have a nice place to sit. We added some swings, and we added some play structures. And so anyway, that's sort of the play equipment that we added. And so if you look right up at the top left, you'll see bench installed on an existing pad. Right about there is where this art component is located. And so the entrance to the park is, there's a big distance actually between the trail and the street. You see the school building, and then people would walk from the street on a sidewalk to the trail. And this is where the entryway is that we did as a public art component. Okay. So there were two parts to this project. Two art pieces. One is a mural that has not been finished, and we had other funders for that. But I wanted to show you it's on a brick wall that is facing the park, and it will be a mural. And their mascot is the Huskies, and so the art teacher has drawn this picture of a husky, and then she will be having some students from the middle school across the street and her art club at Hearn help her with this mural. Okay. So this is Marcia, one of our favorite artists, and she helped the art teacher on this project. This is, on the left is a seat wall that we designed as the entryway to the park, and Marcia is just showing how she we had a contractor actually build the seat wall, and then we're planning what is going on the seat wall with the art teacher. So they wanted paw prints. And so this was something that the students could all help with. First of all, Marcia made these tiles. You have to really watch when you do tile work outside that they will be weather conducive. And so you don't want water to get behind them. You are going to need to, we did need to fire these tiles after they were painted. And so you can't just go to Home Depot and get a shower tile and paint on it and put it up. There is a process that we have learned. And so Marcia actually made these tiles, rolled out the clay and made the tiles, fired them once, and then we took them to the school, and the students started painting them. Okay. So here's a picture. In the largest picture, you'll see the art teacher with the black shirt on in the background, and then her students starting to paint these tiles. We think that the artwork is a way that students can leave their mark on the park. That's not graffiti, but they can come and show their parents or their grandparents something that they did for the park. This school raised $5,000 for their park, and we give a $5,000 goal to every school that we work with. And almost every school can have some kind of fundraiser or multiple fundraisers that raise $5,000. And some schools are able to raise much more than that, but 5,000 is sort of the, and there's no match, we just ask that they try to raise 5,000. But we think it's real important for the students to be involved and to think that they bought the whole thing. It's fine with us, that they own the improvements, that they will take care of the improvements. And again, doing some kind of artwork is a great way for them to actually participate. And the fourth graders are the ones that, which is the top grade at Hearn, are the ones that the art teacher chose to participate in this project. Okay. So you can see how this is coming along. The art teacher actually did the husky, and then you see that the how we installed the tiles. Blue and yellow are the school colors. Okay. So again, this is some of Marcia's work. She broke up some of the tiles for the seat wall area. The blue and the yellow tiles are on the columns on either end of the seat wall. And then how, excuse me, then how she made the letters, cut out the letters, fired them. Okay. Now, these are some pieces that Marcia has done that will be attached to the mural. So you remember the husky with a flower sort of wreath around his neck. And so, and the writing of Hearn on the mural. And so these will be sort of 3D pieces that will be attached to the mural. Another thing that, another partner that we are very indebted to is Trees for Houston. And so they will plant usually around 25 trees on one of our parks. And these are 15-gallon trees, native Texas trees. And you'll see in this particular instance, they planted more than 25 because there was not a lot out there. And so at some point, you know, hopefully there'll be some good shade. But this shows where the landscape architect drew out where the trees would go. And so this is the budget that we used for this particular project. And so park design was $17,600. The quarter-mile concrete trail was $104,429. The equipment, which we mentioned, were the benches, the belt swings, the mini arch, the bubble wall climber, and the slide and the swing mats, were $64,518. Actually, the construction of the seat wall was $18,309. And then the artist, Marcia's fee, plus making the tiles and firing the tiles and the paint, was $17,685. And then the mural supplies, and I actually was at Home Depot this morning picking up the last paint for the mural, is right at $1,181. And so this overall project is right around $223,000. And so anyway, y'all have 22,000 in there. And this is about what we're running, around 175 to 225 for each of our parks, you know, that are Park Desert fund, that we can use the Park Desert funding on. And so there's still a big black thing covering part of my screen. So anyway, the income is 5,000 from the school, 5,000 from A-Leaf ISD, Harris County put in 10,000, the Hershey Foundation, Gill Family Foundation, Impact100, and then the Park Desert funding. So that was really quick.
No, that's super helpful. I know that you had so in the initial proposal for, you know, for a larger amount, there were other schools also, and so it was a partial funding, so it went towards this school. Were you able to complete the parks in the other schools, or does that change?
So there were 5 schools that we submitted a request for, and Hearn was one. Kennedy is, and we have what we call Spark Week, which is the full week before Thanksgiving week. And that's when we will dedicate a park every day that week. And so we actually have a dedication date for Hearn, and it is on Thursday, November 17th at 5 p.m. The principal wanted the community to be involved with that. And another one of the projects that we had submitted was Kennedy Elementary, which is an A-Leaf ISD, and we are doing an art project there. It is not finished. And their dedication will be Tuesday, November 15th at 5:30 p.m. The other three projects that we had submitted, one is at Golf Crest Elementary, which is in Houston ISD. It's off of Telephone Road, sort of on your way to Hobby Airport. And that is in construction now, and we have not done an art project there yet. And then Billy Reagan is K-8 is in South Houston, and that equipment is ordered. The park is not finished. And we will be dedicating probably Golf Crest and Billy Reagan in early part of next year. And then the other one that we had submitted was Chancellor Elementary, and we have not started on that project.
Kathleen, what was the time that you said for the Hearn Spark Park dedication?
So it is 5 o'clock on
5
Thursday, November 17th.
Wonderful. Okay. And then I had a couple of questions about Hearn. You said the mural component is not finished yet. Do you expect that that will be done by the dedication?
Yes, yes. The
Awesome.
art teacher now has all the materials for that.
Okay. And are they in? It's also a tile component.
Is it what?
It's the art itself is on tiles.
No, it will be on a wooden board that will
Okay.
be hung on the brick wall facing the park.
Okay.
And so,
then, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
okay, actually, are y'all, do you remember our calendar that
Yes.
we passed out? Actually, the seat wall that y'all helped fund is going to be in our calendar for 2023.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so I'll make sure that I get some to y'all, and hopefully you can distribute them to some of the people that helped vote for the funding for us.
Wonderful. And when will the calendar be out?
For this Spark Week, for the Spark Week events,
Okay.
full week
So in
before
November.
Thanksgiving.
Right. And then I had another question. You said there's 45 trees coming from Trees for Houston. Are those planted yet, or is that?
Yes, yes,
kind of-
they have been planted. They
Oh,
were
good,
planted
good.
in the spring.
Oh, wonderful.
Following up on that, is there an irrigation component that you all help with or provide? Like how is the landscaping sort of maintained? Is that up to the schools? Is there additional funding needed for that?
There is not irrigation funding that we do. We try to cover it saying that we plant 15-gallon native Texas trees during the school year. And this summer has been terrible. You know, we all know that in June and July, it was very dry, and then it became very wet. And so we'll have to see how many of the trees actually made it through the summer. I'm sure some of them didn't, but hopefully we plant enough that if we lose a few, that's going to be okay. That it's mainly that we hope as many as possible will live. But during the school year, what we suggest is maybe some of the classes adopt a tree. And so like Miss Smith's 3rd grade class has this particular tree, and she might decorate it with rocks, you know, around the bottom so that every student knows, or hang leaves or something, hang yarn or something on the branches, so that they know that their tree, which tree is theirs, and then they bring in gallon milk jugs. And it can really be a learning lesson in that you track when it has rained, how much it has rained, how much water the trees need, and then you keep them alive like that. Or you.
And does Trees for Houston assist with that? So they kind of guide the teachers in how much each tree might need if it hasn't rained for 2 weeks, or?
So I know that they know that information. So
Okay.
So Kathleen, to pull back just a little bit from our specific project, I know that y'all are targeting park deserts. Can you talk a little bit about sort of what is on your horizon for the next couple of years? Is it still park deserts? Are there specific areas or a need that is going to, that you know that our members could help with or that you're currently raising for?
So we did a park desert phase 1, and actually Kinder Foundation came in with 2.5 million. Houston Endowment came in with 2.5 million, and the Powell Foundation came in with 500,000. And those were for 30 projects, 25 of which were new projects, and then 5 were what we call re-spark projects. So if a Spark Park is older than 10 years, then the school can come back to us and say, we would like a re-spark. And so that first phase of funding, which was about 6 years ago, it was for 30 projects in 3 years, which we completed. And then we went back to Kinder and Houston Endowment, and we asked them about a phase 2 of Park Desert funding, which we got. We got 2.5 million from Kinder, 2.5 million from Houston Endowment, and 500,000 from the Brown Foundation. And these 30 projects were 15 new and 15 re-spark projects. And so now we are wrapping up that phase 2, and actually are having meetings with some funders about a phase 3. And so we are going to be celebrating our 40th year in 2023. And so anyway, our request, I will give you a hint, has something to do with our 40 years. So all the funding is not, we can always use funding. One of the ways, the park desert, I've explained to you what a park desert is. And so, but we have other schools, and like Memorial Elementary, which I think one of your members might be live near. Well, Memorial Elementary, we did probably 20 years ago. It's right next to Memorial Park. It is not in a park desert, but we do want to go back and make sure that if it has a spark sign on it, that it is always spark ready. And so, so we are working with that community, and we have ordered new play equipment, and that will be in first of the year. And so we will be re-sparking that project, but that does not fall in with our park desert funding. And so we have to raise money for projects like that. We're doing another project at Sinclair Elementary. I know one of your members lives in that neighborhood, Timber Grove. And it's the same thing. There are city parks that are around Timber Grove that kicks out Sinclair from getting the park desert funding. And so that community, as well as the Memorial community, have done some major fundraising for the improvements. Spark has come in, the county is helping, and the city council members are helping on both of those projects come up with a budget that so that we can re-spark those.
Kathleen, when you think about a park desert, are you only looking at whether or not there is an existing park nearby the school, or do you think about if that nearby park has play equipment for children?
So actually, I don't know if y'all have heard of the Trust for Public Land. It is a national organization actually that rates the 100 largest cities on how they're doing with park space. And so you might guess that the top of the list is Washington, D.C. When you think of all the national parks in Washington, D.C. And so you think of, they look at per capita. So, and the distance it takes to walk to a park. And so actually of the top 100 cities, Houston is like number 75. So we have a very poor rating as far as parks per capita. And so that is the focus of this Park Desert money, is to try to, by using Spark, to up Houston in the list. And so we're slowly moving up by using different means, but a lot of the cost of doing a park is buying the land. And so when you think of Spark having public school grounds that we make available after school and on the weekends for the community to use as a park, that makes a lot of sense. And so your question,
it doesn't calculate if it has a play structure or some sort of equipment for the children.
it does now. It used to not, but now it does. It looks at does it have basketball courts? Does it have a swimming splash pad? Does it have bathrooms? There are a number of criteria that they now factor into where you stand on the list. The access to it, the income levels, equity, these are all now factors into how your city rates. And so I will give you an example. So in Channelview ISD, we wanted to do a project that was at a school, and there was not real far away county park that had all ball fields. Well, it didn't do anything for kids with families that wanted to play on play equipment. So we were allowed to use the Park Desert funding at that school because we're putting in, play equipment. And the other one is, it didn't even have any picnic tables or anything. It was just ball fields. So.
And can you talk about how, how do you work with, or do you work with sort of the other park organizations in Houston? So I know you partner with HISD, with ALEAF, with the school districts, but how do you work with like the other park organizations?
So I had lunch yesterday with Beth White, who is the director of the Houston Parks Board. And so we're all real in tune with what each other is doing. There's actually, during COVID, the City of Houston Parks Department instituted a call on Friday mornings between, I would say, 15 of the biggest park groups. So you had Memorial Park, you had Herman Park, you had Levy Park, you had Spark, you had Buffalo Bio Park, you had Willow Waterhole, you had all these organizations, and we would call in on Fridays to just sort of talk through, well, what are you doing about masks? What are you doing? Are you open or not? What are you doing about your employees? So it was a really good way to sort of to share ideas. And we never had that before. And so there was never really a good gathering of all the groups. But now we don't, and it's a Zoom meeting, and now we don't meet every Friday, but maybe once a month. But we all share sort of what our next focus is going to be, events that we're having, that we're working on. There is a convention that we are trying to get. Let's see, it's trying to think of what the name of it is. It's a national convention, and we are all working together on a submittal to have it in Houston, and it's I'll have to get it for you. It's city, urban city something. So, but it'll be exciting. I've been to the convention before when it was in New York City, and it was, it will bring a lot of focus to Houston if we can get it here. And I think we will.
That level of collaboration, it's interesting to hear what's happened during COVID, you know, because it seems now it's like, of course it makes sense for you all to be talking all the time, but that it didn't happen and that it took something like COVID to bring everybody together. It's amazing.
Yeah, you might remember, you know, it's at one point, and it was good for the city to sort of be holding this forum, because, you know, we could all say, well, the city parks are closed, you know, their play equipment is taped up. And so, you know, that's what we're going by right now. And so don't be surprised if the school has their play equipment taped up, because that's what the city is doing now. You know, the tape doesn't last very long, as we all know, but anyway, it was good for the city to set the standard of what everybody else needed to do, so that we were all aligned to, you know, what we were supposed to do.
I see there's a Laura Shelby on the call. I'm not sure if you have any questions or not. Okay, just wanted to give you space for that. Michelle, do you?
I'm sorry, I'm here. I think it's really interesting. I'm just listening and doing other things, so I didn't want to be distracting. But I did have actually, years ago, I was involved in a volunteer group that we built a couple of playgrounds with a bunch of volunteers. One was at in a neighborhood, and I know it's still there and gets used all the time. In fact, when my kids were younger, I used to take them there. And then the other was put in at a nursing home, with the hope that, you know, families would come with their small children more and bring the elderly people outside and kind of make it, you know, interactive, because the kids would have something to do. And unfortunately, I know that one did not get used very much, and eventually it was demolished and something else put in there, sadly. But I guess, you know, it wasn't really being used very much. But so I'm curious, I just think what you do is awesome, but do you guys track the use? And when you re-spark these parks, do you know, like, does it increase the usage? And how do you decide? I mean, are there surveys or things done? Like, how do you decide where the need is for that sort of thing? Because, and I apologize if I missed this, because you may have already explained it, but it's just because, you know, I'm just curious because of what I observed with one being so successful and the other one not. And they both seemed like really good ideas at the time, but you know what I'm saying?
So all of our projects are going to be on public school grounds. And so, and then, you know, we know how many students are at the schools. And so I think that we can very easily say, you know, if there are 500 students at the school, they're playing on the playground during the school day, you know, 3 times a week. So we know that our parks are getting used during the school day. What is harder to determine is who's using them after school and on the weekends. And we don't really have a way of tracking that. I mentioned the Trust for Public Land, and you can actually go on their website and we can put in the name of a school, and it will have how many people live within a 10-minute walk. It will have their ethnicity. It will have their income levels. It will have their age groups. And so we try to, for the Park Desert funding, we try to hit that it will reach 1,000 people within a 10-minute walk.
Okay.
And so most elementary schools, you know, I would say maybe have 500 kids. Let's just say there's an average of 500 kids. And then those kids have one or two parents and they might have one or two siblings, blah, blah, blah. But so we try, so with this Trust for Public Land information, we focus on schools that are going to reach 1,000 or more persons that live within a 10-minute walk.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I figured you probably had some kind of criteria or something on that. And then I just have one other question. Then once that you do come in and do your work, is there any ongoing responsibility for maintenance? Like how do these, or does that just fall back then again on the school, I assume? Like, how do they make sure they stay safe?
So our agreement with the school districts, our written agreement is that we will come in and spend so much money on the project. The school will help raise money. The school district will put in some money, and then the school district will retain ownership of the property and they will maintain the parks. Now, sometimes, I mean, I went by a school today and I thought it needed mowing terribly. And so I think it's just an ongoing problem to have maintenance on school grounds. You know, if you're on a mowing schedule, and the city parks are on a mowing schedule in the summer of what, every 3 weeks or something. Well, if you get mowed every 3 weeks, but then it rains a week and then you're off schedule, you know, it's just, it's not a perfect situation. I guess it would be a perfect situation if every school went back to having their own mowers and they saw that their property was mowed, but it's not, it's district wide. And so there are some districts that do a little bit better than other districts, but it is the school district's responsibility for maintaining our parks. And so, you know, but I am always sending pictures, and I encourage anybody to send me a picture if you think that the park needs mowed. You know, we have people that use our parks for birthdays, and so they'll say, oh my gosh, the park needs to be mowed. And so, you know, we send in something and say, please mow in the next week, you know, so that, you know, so the community can use the park. So, and one thing I didn't really dwell on, but when we assign a landscape architect to the, what we suggest that a principal set up a SPARK committee, which might include the PE teacher, the art teacher, the custodian or plant operator, some of the teachers that might have a real interest in what goes on, what their students play with, somebody from the civic club, somebody from the county. Our office really doesn't send anybody to those meetings. We want the landscape architect to hear from the community as to what the community wants in the park. And so, for instance, if you have some special needs children at the school or in the neighborhood that really would appreciate having one of those swings that, you know, has the sort of the back brace on it, that, you know, that you can buckle in a child. Well, we need to hear that. We want to hear that. Our parks are always going to be handicap accessible, but with sidewalks or whatever. But, you know, if there are some special needs from the school, then we want to hear that so that we can make sure that something is there for those students to use. And so the landscape architect, we pay to come up with these ideas, to submit the ideas back to the school, and then we give them a budget, and then we see, you know, what all we can include in the park. But the design is driven by the school and the community. And so we don't do what I consider to be cookie cutter parks. So you can imagine that all of our schools have different land areas, And so the city of Houston or the county might have a $500,000 park. They might have a $300,000 park. And this is what you get for that money. And this is what you get for that money. All of our projects are different.
Okay, thank you.
So you said that volunteers built the park. So there are organizations that use volunteers to actually build the parks. We don't do that because of liability. And so we hire contractors that build our parks. And so.
Right. Yeah. They probably come out looking better and operating better too.
Michelle, do you have any additional questions?
No, not a question, just a comment. I just wanted to say, I didn't remember from the proposal that Trees for Houston was kind of a part of the parks and the planning and the implementation to bring some of that, the trees there and any other maybe things you might partner with other organizations. And I just really loved hearing that today, that they're, the school yard is maybe a little treeless, and this brought the opportunity to bring trees to the school and the community. And so that was kind of exciting to know about. So thanks for sharing that too.
Sure. I know that at one meeting that I came to, actually, I think that they had sent in a proposal to y'all. And so we are longtime partners. We appreciate all that they do to green up the city. I always think of the planting of trees as sort of the icing on the park. And at some point we usually we leave the tree planting, to Trees for Houston. Occasionally there will be a company that comes to us and says, we want to do a volunteer activity and plant trees, and we help coordinate that. But we usually leave it to Trees for Houston.
I like that too. You see so many, obviously we need the shade in Houston, and you see so much artificial shade sometimes, and not that that's bad or not needed, but to actually go in and plant the trees, it just really does add to the environment and also help that immediate need of shade as well. And the public art component, I love that the architects generally work directly with the community, right? So when they're designing the park, so they can decide if there's public art, what does it look like? How does it represent the community that's there? How do you engage the children to give them ownership and a pride really over this this beautiful space that you all are helping facilitate for them. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I think all of y'all live in areas and you love to visit the Museum of Fine Arts, or you love the museum district to see different things. And Houston has such a wealth of museums, but often when you get out into some of these neighborhoods, the students don't get out of their neighborhood. And so for them to be able to deal with a local artist that is making a living by creating artwork, I think it's a great opportunity to see how people are making a living and doing something that they love to do. Same with the art teacher, to bring them into the project so that they can involve the students, I think is really important. And so I think that Spark is actually doing more public art, if you look at all of our projects, than any other organization. And as I mentioned before, we highlight 12 of the projects each year in our calendar.
And are the artists that you select from the communities where the schools are?
And not necessarily. We have probably 6 or 7. First of all, we will see how much the art teacher wants to be involved. And then, for instance, at Hearn, the art teacher really wanted to help on the seat wall. She really wanted the kids to do tiles, but she really had never done tiles before or mosaic work. And so that's why we brought in Marcia to help with that project. And she could install, she could fire the tiles, she could make the tiles, and she could instruct, you know, to make sure that they were being done correctly. And so it's not necessarily a person that lives in that neighborhood. No.
Okay.
If our members wanted to see more of Marcia's work, or another organization we partners with wants to partner with her, is there does she have a place where, like a website or anything like that?
Yes, I'll send it to you because you will love her work. You will love it.
Wonderful.
And so do you happen to have the last calendar, the calendar for this year?
I have it, but I don't have it within arm's
Yeah.
reach right now.
I'm just I will send you her website, and she's actually in the calendar for July.
For 2022.
Right.
Okay, so the one we
So
already have.
it's a small seat wall that she did at Montgomery Elementary, but she's so creative. And so, and actually, I just heard that, do any of y'all live in the Heights? Or
Nearby.
okay, do you know the Heights Boulevard where they do
It's-
artwork along?
Uh-huh.
She's been featured in that before, and I think she's about to be featured again.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
I'll have to look for it.
Wonderful.
she's great, and I will send you her website.
Great. We're always looking to promote other amazing women that when we learn about their work in the community too. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, Kathleen, or any questions for us?
No, I just really appreciate women getting together and raising funds and deciding where the funds are going to go. I don't know. I loved watching Serena Williams in the tennis tournament recently, and I guess I read the Vogue article that she wrote about her retirement, and she has started this funding other organizations, and she was saying that she had gone to a meeting of wealthy people that was put on by a bank, and one of the things that she took away from that meeting was that 98% of the funding, of the nonprofit funding, was dictated by white men. And she went up to the person afterwards and said, "You mean only 2% is being, decided by women, and there's no diversity in this?" It's just, and that's why she started that organization where she is really helping fund other projects. And so I think y'all are really on the cusp of bringing women into philanthropy, where it might not be family wealth, it is community wealth, and it's people that women that get together and collectively want to make a difference in their community. So I really applaud y'all for doing this and starting this in Houston.
Oh, thank you so much, Kathleen. We really appreciate it. And we'll make sure we send this out with our newsletter in October, so all of our members who couldn't join us today have a chance to get the update on the wonderful things you're doing. And we just appreciate everything that you do for Houston and have done. I was doing the math, like 60 parks already, right? Like.
And Kathleen, is it okay if we invite members to the Hearn Spark Park dedication?
Of course. And
Okay.
so Hearn will have their own invitation, and then Spark will have an invitation to the whole week's events. So I will make sure that, Jessica, you get that you can distribute to your membership.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank y'all so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.